Hello, my name is Cobi, and I'm a recording artist, and you're listening to Talking Blues.
I want to ask you first about Grand Marais. I believe it's a small town in is it in Minnesota?
Yeah, northern Minnesota. It's close to Canada, actually.
Yeah. Tell me about growing up in that town and what that town was like, or is like.
Well, it's beautiful there. It's really gorgeous. You're right. I literally grew up right on the shore there, north shore of Lake Superior, and it's beautiful. It's pretty remote. Small town, not a lot of people.
How small are we talking about?
Like the town I grew up in, Lutzen, I think it was like 7,000 time or something like that, maybe.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, but it's small.
So did it seem small when you were growing up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you have exposure to larger cities?
A little bit, yeah, because I had family in Minneapolis. Like my mom's side, a lot of her family, my aunts and uncles and my grandma and stuff like that. My grandpa all lived down in Minneapolis, so we'd go down there to visit them a couple times a year. So I had some exposure that way. Traveling down is always a long drive, so lots of time to listen to music. About 5 hours.
Oh, that is a long time.
One way. So lots of time listening to music, my cassette tapes and my CDs and all that back then was in the car.
My understanding is your first exposure to music might have come from your mom and her singing and her guitar playing.
Yeah.
What did she play? What did she sing?
She had an old Yamaha acoustic that she had bought, probably in the 70s or something. And, she learned to play a few songs. And I remember her singing like House of the Rising Sun was one that I always remember her singing. And then some other kid songs that she would sing to us, like Freight Train or something like that. Yeah.
You have a great voice. I presume it comes from your mom?
Maybe. I don't know. My dad was, he had a musical ear too, a little bit. So he didn't really do any music, but he liked to sing every now and then, like sing along to things.
You started early with the piano, I believe.
Yes, I think piano was like my first taking a stab at an instrument, yeah.
But it didn't really connect.
Well, I had a teacher, it was like I was probably six years old when I started, and it was learning songs, but like out of a book, reading music, you know what I mean, like, and for me, like, I just wanted to learn everything by ear, so there was a little bit of a disconnect. Like my teacher was trying to get me to read music off the page and always exercise that, but I just wanted to hear her play it, and then I'd learn the songs just from hearing her play, and then later, I didn't really know what I was doing or understand what it was, but it was really just me. Like I just like to I need to hear the music, So when I only took piano for like 2 years, maybe a year and a half, 2 years or something like that, and then shortly after that, I started picking up my mom's guitar and just kind of plucking away at that and learning songs off of albums, CDs, and stuff like that, listening.
And this is something you could figure out using your ear?
Yeah.
So did it come easy to you?
Easy. I don't know. I don't know if it came easy. It was just something I really wanted to do. I mean, at first it's not easy. At first you're kind of like figuring it out the hard way, but things, I guess, get easier over time. But once you develop your ear, it gets easier. Yeah. But yeah, I guess I had a knack for it.
At what point did you think this is what you want to pursue?
Pretty early. As soon as I picked up the guitar, I knew that was it.
Was it more the act of picking up the guitar and figuring out things, or did you see musicians that you wanted to?
Both. Saw musicians I wanted to be like, and also just like the feeling of holding a guitar or seeing a guitar in a store window.
Can I ask who those musicians might have been?
Yeah, it was a lot. I mean, it was like my parents grew up listening to like Bob Marley, Elton John, um, Bruce Springsteen, and lots of blues stuff later. Robert Cray, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Jimi Hendrix, and then getting little bit later, getting into deeper into all that, like who they were listening to, and like Albert King and BB King and Sun Seals, and and then all the British stuff, Led Zeppelin, Jimmy Page, blah blah blah, Eric Clapton, Black Sabbath. I mean, it goes on and on. And then I grew up growing up in Minnesota. There was Prince. Prince was always on. Lots of stuff. Lots of stuff. Neil Young, Joni Mitchell.
Oh, the Canadians.
A lot of a lot of the 60s and 70s artists,
You decided at one point to move to the big city. And I guess, was it to pursue music, or was it
That was a little later, yeah. Well, there was like an Arts Magnets high school program in the city, in Minneapolis, in Golden Valley specifically, suburb. And like I said, I had some family around that area. My grandma lived there, my aunts, my uncles. So I had been doing music for a while up until that point, and I think I was about 16. And they have an Arts Magnets program where for the last 2 years of high school you can apply to go to this like school and study the arts, right? So they had music, lit, theater, visual arts, media. I think it was the 5. And of course I went for music. So my brother and I actually applied at the same time. I was a junior in high school, he was a senior. And you had to apply and audition and write an essay and all this stuff. And we went down there and we auditioned for him, and we both got in. And he went for his last year of high school. I went for my last 2 years. And so then I that kind of got me out of my small town, and I moved down to the city kind of for the last 2 years. And they had a dormitory there, so I lived in the dorm the first year. And my second year, I lived with my aunt, who wasn't that far away from the school.
What did you audition with? Do you remember?
Gosh, I don't remember. I think it was a song that I wrote. It was a blues song. I think I just played some blues, or
wow,
maybe I played a standard. I can't remember exactly what I played, but I'm pretty sure it was a blues.
And then you actually played some blues.
I was playing a lot of blues. Like that was my whole thing for picking up the guitar, was blues guitar. I loved it.
So where did that change? Like, I know you're still influenced by it, but I wouldn't necessarily say...
I don't think it has changed, really. But...
I mean, you didn't pursue the blues path and played in the blues band.
Well, I did that a lot as a teenager.
Right.
I actually did, yeah. I pursued... I started performing out when I was about 12. I can't really skip over my first musical mentor, who really kind of brought me under his wing. His name was John Gruber, and he was friends with my mom at the time, and he was the local musician, and she asked him to come over and just play with me one day, because I was so into it and I wanted to play with somebody. And he was kind of just gigging around town and stuff. There's probably like, for a small town, there was a lot of arts there. It was really pretty artistic town. There was a lot of tourists that came up there to go skiing and stuff. So we had a ski hill, and so the ski hill had like a really great place to play music, where they'd have bands come and stuff like that. And Grand Marais had taverns and a couple bars that were kind of like, it was like a circuit. They had like a circuit for musicians to play. So even though it was a small town, they had like a music circuit there for artists to go and play. So he was in that circuit a lot, and he had played in the city when he was a bit younger, but he had moved up there. And anyway, he came over and played with me one day, and he's like, "Hey, I really like what you're doing." And I'd only been playing in my bedroom until that point. And he's like, "Would you want to play a gig with me?" And I was like, "Oh my God, it's a dream come true. Yeah, I would love to play a gig." So I started playing with him when I was about 12 years old. And he really just took me under my wing. He taught me a lot just about gigging, about putting together set lists, about singing. He was the one who really encouraged me to sing and step in front of the mic. And I would trade off with him, and he would sing, and he would sing some songs. We played together, and he'd play guitar and I'd play guitar. And yeah, and that's really how I started off. And I played with him until I was about like 17 years old, I think.
Wow.
And we really just like there was a lot there was a blues scene kind of in the state at the time in
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota. There was a really solid blues scene. Like blues was a bit more popular back then, more so than it is now. This was back in like the time of like the 90s, early 2000s. Like Johnny Lang was popping off out of Minnesota. There was blues festivals, kind of across the state. Lots of blues bars, and there was just a whole blues circuit, you could kind of get plugged into. And he, really pushed and got us into that blues circuit at the time when I was like really pretty young and we started playing, the blues clubs in Duluth. I ventured out from before I even moved down to the city, ventured out of my town, started playing in Duluth, started playing in Ely, in other cities and towns and stuff across the state. And that really got me going. And then he, would organize like, okay, we need to record something, so we have something to sell at the shows. So, he booked studio time down in Duluth. And that was like some of my first time going into a studio. And we eventually added a drummer, and we'd go and record, and then we'd make a 7-song EP. Back then it was all tape. And yeah, we'd sell it at the shows. We'd sell it at the bars and stuff. So this is like me learning, like, what it is to be an artist, what it is to hustle, how you make money being an artist, And a lot of those same principles that I learned then, I'm still applying now in a lot of ways.
So this was a dream come true. You start doing this, you start gigging and touring.
Yeah.
Was it what you thought it would be? Was it?
I loved it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I loved it. I was just like, more. I wanted to do more. Yeah. At this point, we were playing maybe one gig a month or one gig every couple of months or something like that. But we made some pretty good headway across, the state in the local blues scene.
So I'm curious as to, I don't know if the next step was you moving to Boston.
That's a little bit later.
Okay.
Yeah. This was like me pretty young. This is me at like between 12 and 16.
Okay.
Then 16, I moved down to the city, started doing the Perpich Center for Arts Education. That was the arts high school, arts maintenance program. And I was still playing with John and that blues band a bit up until about the end of high school. And then once I got out of high school, I stayed in Minnesota with my brother, and I got an apartment with our friend from high school who's a drummer, and we had our own band, and we started doing a band in the city, more rock stuff. And that's about when things started to kind of change, and I started to I still played a lot of blues influenced stuff, but when it started shifting from, okay, I'm not playing pure blues anymore, now I'm starting to experiment and try to do other things.
So how do you wind up in Boston? Is it because of Berkeley?
Well, Berkeley was part of it. Yeah, so I coming from the arts high school, a few of my friends that were in the music program there were going out to Boston. And so a lot of people were talking about it as like, that was kind of the next step. It was like, oh, there's Berkeley out there. And I didn't really want to go to college. I just wanted to play and do gigs and make money and play gigs and record and do that, I didn't really want to do anything else. So I didn't know, right out of high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but a lot of my friends were going out there. And so after about a year of my brother and I and our friend Andrew, who's playing a drummer, trying to get a band off the ground in the city, which was tough, then I was kind of like, okay, well, maybe I should try to do something. So I applied. I was like, I might as well apply. So I applied for it. I got in. And then it was like, well, okay, then, maybe I should start taking some classes just in case I want to go, start taking some gen ed classes. So if I do go, I don't have to spend a bunch of money on just gen ed classes. So I stayed in Minneapolis for a while, still trying to gig, still trying to kind of build a career or build something there. But, this is before you could just record music on your laptop.
Right.
That was not the case back then. Like if you wanted to record anything, you had to book studio time, which meant either you had to pay a lot of money or what we would do is we had a lot of friends that were like in college programs for recording. because back then there was a big boom for like recording, producer pro colleges and stuff. And there was probably like 4 or 5 recording colleges in Minneapolis at the time. There was like Music Tech, which later became McNally Smith. There was like IPR. These are all like, they had like state of the art studios in these colleges, and then kids would go there to learn, and then they would get free studio time. So we would go find these kids that were in these college programs, and then we'd try to get free studio time from them, but they didn't know what they were doing in the studios. So our recordings never sounded that good, even though we were in the state of the art studios, because there were kids, that didn't know what they were doing. But that was how we could record, because we couldn't record on our laptops back then. I didn't even have one,
Right.
Which later changed, but yeah. So anyway, I'm
You
going
go
on
to
and on.
Berkeley, or you go to
Anyway,
Boston?
so yeah, I finished my gen eds. I decided, okay, I'm going to Boston, and then I move out there. Yeah, I was probably about 19.
Okay, so when you moved out there, you joined a band, the Gentleman's Hall.
Yeah, at first I joined. I tried to start a couple bands before that. That didn't really pan out, and then finally, after about being out there for 2 years, then I joined Gentleman Hall. Yeah,
And that did quite well. Was it quick?
it did. Yeah. Those guys were a little older than me. They had already kind of been in the scene for a while and done other bands, and so yeah, it was. Once I joined, we started. And they had a great work ethic. A lot of the guys in the band, they had good work ethic. So it was refreshing to be with people who just wanted to do some real work,
And would it be correct to say that they were more like a pop band?
Yeah, it was indie pop.
Like that
Indie
was
pop
quite
band.
different from what you were
It
used to.
started out as straight pop. Yeah, we were straight pop. It was very different. Yeah. But it was there where I really started to hone in and learn my own recording and writing techniques, just like home recording stuff, because that was when the technology finally was made available, where people could start really recording on their laptops. Laptops got fast enough where you could record and start producing your own stuff right in your bedroom. That was around that time, and that's when we started going really hard on just recording with each other.
Songwriting, is that something that came easy to you?
Not at first. No, especially lyrics didn't really come easy to me at first. My brother was always like more of a lyricist than I thought I was, growing up as a kid. But after, a lot of grinding, I finally started to get it and get better at it. It was the act of recording that really helped me, recording all the time and just recording a lot of ideas. Those were really what helped me in my writing.
So if I was to ask you about the experience of being in that band, what did it give you?
A lot. It gave me a lot. Like I said, learning how to record and produce your own material, that was one. Songwriting was we were big emphasis on songwriting. So those two things were really big. And also just hustling, getting out, doing shows, getting out in the college scene in Boston, getting media attention somehow, getting whatever, like, back then it was the Boston Globe, it was the Phoenix, there was the local radio WFNX that would play like local acts and a lot of alternative stuff that was popular. So getting with them, it was just, it was just kind of learning and hustling.
And then you guys won like an MTV award for Best Boston Breakout Group or something like that?
Yeah, well, we won a Battle of the Bands that was kind of sponsored by MTV.
What did that do for you?
It just gave us a nice like little accolade that was good for like press write-ups and stuff, and it sounded good on paper. Other than that, it really didn't do anything. But it helped like when you're like writing press releases, or like when like for the Boston Globe, like they had a great music scene back then. I think it's different now probably, but back then it was great. They supported lots of local bands and stuff, and that sort of accolade helped with like getting press releases, because we have a story now. We have something to talk about.
Right. Am I correct to assume that after that, I don't know if you pursued your solo career or you joined Above and Beyond?
Yeah, so I stayed in Gentleman Hall for About 6 years.
Okay.
And during that time, we had, around the time I left, we had just signed to Island Records the year before, but we were more or less shelved at the time.
Yeah.
So there wasn't much momentum happening on that front. We had had a lot of momentum that we gained on our own, but we were really trying to break out nationally, and it was really hard. It was really hard. But then there was also a lot of creative differences. There's kind of, a lot of too many cooks in the kitchen, maybe.
Right.
And just over the time period, it just felt like, okay, I really want to do my own thing. So that's what I decided to do. So in 2014, I moved from Boston. I moved out to LA, started doing my own thing. And they didn't want to leave Boston. That was the other thing. I wanted to get out of Boston.
Because?
And I hated the weather. I hated it.
It could have been worse than
anymore.
what were you used to, no?
Well, that's the problem. I wanted to get the fuck out of there.
Okay, but at some point around 2014 or so, 16, you joined Above and Beyond.
Yeah, that was after I went solo. Yeah.
Okay.
So I had already kind of started. So the Above and Beyond thing was an interesting thing. So I had started my solo. I moved out here in 2014. I kind of started doing a solo thing, trying to figure that out. 2015, caught a lucky break and had my music passed over to Leor Cohen over from at 300 at the time, was his label.
Right.
He signed me in 2015, and we were getting ready to release the single "Don't You Cry for Me" that May 2016. And it was probably in like the early spring, something like that, January, February, maybe, when we had already had the release planned and I was already signed. But my manager here at the time was at a Grammy party, and he happened to meet the managers from Above and Beyond. So my manager met their manager out here at like a Grammy party or something. And I wasn't even there. And he was like, they started talking or whatever. They were looking for a singer to go on tour. I had never heard of Above and Beyond before, so this was not on my radar whatsoever. Right. And my manager comes back and he's like, "Oh, I just met the managers from Above and Beyond. They're looking for a singer for their tour. They really like you." I'm like, "Who's Above and Beyond?" I'm like getting ready to do my solo thing. I'm like, I'm not trying to go out on tour
right.
with some DJs or whatever. Like, that's not really my prerogative right now. But like, no, just trust me. Like, they just want to hear you sing one of their songs. So could you just here's the song. Could you just record yourself singing it? So I did. I just sang the song and sent it to them, and they were like, "Oh, they really liked it. They want to meet you in Vegas now. They're going to be in Vegas. They want to fly you out to meet you and like have you sing for them in person." And I was like, "Okay," so I did that, and just one thing led to another, and before I knew it, I was out in London rehearsing with them for their world tour.
So what's the record company thinking at this point?
And they were all about it, because they were like, "Oh, this is going to be great exposure." Right around the time we were releasing the single, it just was good, a good timing, like, because it was great exposure. So the record company was all about it, because the tour was about 3 months, something like that, and I came off that tour about a month after my lead single came out on the label, which all the timing was just, as soon as the single came out, I was on tour with Above and Beyond, and the song blew up, and it went to #1 global viral chart on Spotify. It's getting hundreds of thousands of streams a day.
Did that surprise you?
Song blew up.
Like, I know that it.
I wasn't. I honestly, like, in any other time in my life, I would have been surprised, but it felt like that was going to be
because of the song or because of the circumstance?
Yeah, there was already a lot of just kind of like hype around the song before it came out. I knew it was a good song. I knew it was I just had a feeling like it was gonna do well.
So did the choice to play with Above and Beyond for those 3 months and record that, and was it Acoustic 2, the album that you recorded with them?
I didn't record with them, really.
Did you not do any songs?
No. I only ended up on their live album.
Okay.
Yeah. I did try to do some recording after the tour. They wanted me on their next album as one of the singers. And I did. I just didn't like a lot of the material they were sending. And there was one song I was like, I could do that one. I'll do that one. But they were like, well, either you're doing all of them or you're not doing any of them.
Right.
So I was like, well, okay, then maybe it's not a good fit.
So the experience of touring with them, because they were at a different level. I mean, you were playing some
Yeah.
major places.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
presume
yeah.
that was a great experience.
Oh yeah. It was a fantastic experience. Yeah.
And then did that exposure or whatever you did for those 3 months with them, did that really help you in your solo career, or do you think it had nothing to do with it, that it would have happened anyways?
Hard to say exactly how much it helped, but it definitely helped. Yeah, it definitely
Okay.
it was a good exposure at a good time. You know, it was a good look. How, what it did or didn't do, really, it's hard to say.
Okay, so
Yeah,
the song blows up, things are happening. You're on the Tonight Show. Is it
yeah.
Tonight Show?
About a year late.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was about that was 2017 January, end of January 2017.
So how did that song change you or affect your career?
I don't know. It was just an experience, really. I don't know if it changed me or affected. I mean, it gave me a platform to stand on for a little while. You know.
And I presume some of your following today is based on that song.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So then what happens?
Lots of stuff.
I mean, you get this song that's blowing up.
Well, then I'm like, okay, it's like, how do I follow it up? And I really wanted to follow it up, so I was writing a ton. I wanted to be ready, so I was always writing, and that was like kind of going back to what I learned with Gentleman Hall, was like, you got to always be writing, you got to be always ready, because when the moment happens, you got to be ready. So but the experience I had was it's tricky. It was difficult because I had an A&R guy who wasn't really, I don't think he was that big of a fan of me at the label. And like, for example, so I kind of skipped over this, but before I got signed to the label, I had the song, right? And my manager had sent out my song, the same song, to this A&R guy. I'm not going to name him. And this is before Leor heard it. And the A&R guy said, I still have that email, and I'm sure I have it somewhere. But he let this whole thing about how the song is not good.
Huh.
And then somehow Leor hears the song a month later or something like that. And Leor's like, that's a hit. Fly him out here. I want to meet him. So when I got signed, I ended up with that A&R guy who didn't like my song, who didn't think it was a good song.
Right.
And he was my A&R guy right off the bat. So he was just tough. Like, he didn't like any of my music. Like, I would send him tons of songs, and well, I don't know if he didn't like it, but I couldn't get him to let me move forward with anything. You know what I mean? And and come up with a release plan. And I was like, okay, this we got this song out. It's like, I wanted to start releasing some music. Like, I had music ready to go, and it was just like, nah, no, it's not ready. We don't have the songs, or it's not the right time. And then that just kind of continued on for a while. And then it was stuff. What happened was, a few months after Don't You Cry For Me came out, Leor Cohen left the label. And he was the main guy that was really driving my success at the label. And he was the one who believed in me, and he was the one who signed me. So after he left the label, he went to YouTube Music. He couldn't deal with anybody at the label anymore, any of the artists. So I was left there with ever revolving door of new people coming in and out of the label, which is what happens a lot of times with these labels. You get signed there as an artist, and then before you know it, everybody who signed you is gone, and it's all new people there.
I mean, you said with the first band, Gentleman Hall, that the album got shelved. So I don't know if that's a similar situation where you're dealing with a record company.
Yeah,
that
it was
didn't believe in
similar.
it. Okay. So
Something like
not
that.
that you get used to something like that, but you're quite aware of the fact that the music business is full of stuff like that.
Yeah.
What does it do to you as an artist?
Well, it's pretty demoralizing as an artist, really. Yeah.
And
at the time, I was really frustrated.
And does it
Yeah.
affect your confidence? Does it affect who you are as a musician, or do you just think that the business is wrong? I'm still
Mm,
good.
it never really affected my confidence, but it definitely threw a monkey wrench in the trajectory. Yeah.
And so, did you wind up leaving that label?
Yeah, in 2020 during the pandemic, yeah, I finally got off the label. And this was long after Leor was gone. It was all new people. I'd been tossed around to different A&Rs and everything. So 2020 pandemic happens. I think they start cleaning house, and then I was able to leave,
Okay, so obviously
which was a good thing for me
okay,
at that time. Yeah, it was a good thing.
but a tough time for all musicians. How did you deal with the pandemic?
The pandemic was horrible. I mean, it was
And also with this happening around the same time, so what you're no longer with a label now. There's no
mhm.
gigs out there. What do
Yeah,
you
you
do?
couldn't tour. I had a whole summer of touring planned, and everything got canceled, and then yeah, it's like watching your team just disappear. That's what happened. 2020, the whole team just disappeared, and I was just left to my own devices.
So what do you do? What's your thinking at that point?
Mm, well, in 2020, I didn't know what to do at first. Luckily, I had some really great support from some people at Apple Music, and I was encouraged. So, well, I had all these songs that I recorded, while on 300 that I wanted to put out. So I had an abundance of material.
Which
So
you
then it
owned?
was like, which I owned.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I owned it, and then it was like, okay, well, what do I do? So I was like, all right, well, I'll put out a song. So I started releasing stuff, and then as I started releasing my own music, I was like, oh wow, this is actually great. I'm making more money this way. I own my masters now. And then I started learning what it means to actually own your masters, and what it really means to be independent and the benefits of it.
Was that easy though? I mean, to become an independent artist and I presume put out your own music.
I mean, easy. I don't know. I mean, nothing's easy. Um, but it was a natural progression. It
Right.
was a natural flow into it. So for me, I mean, it I guess in some ways it was easy because I naturally flowed into it. I had all the recordings, I had all the assets I needed already. I was just waiting for the go on the fire. Like it's time to go. So once I got let off, it was like, okay, let's start trying to release music independently, and I did. And then I've been doing it ever since. It's been great. I love it.
The other thing you do is a lot of videos, or you've done some great videos.
I have done some videos, yeah. Less nowadays.
Because?
Expensive.
Oh,
Nowadays
okay.
it's all short form. Everything's short form. I still do short form content for my, all my releases and stuff. But making a whole music videos it makes you need a budget or, you know, to do that.
I want to ask you
Mm-hmm.
about Church of the Lonely.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wonderful video.
Thanks.
Was that shot in one take?
One take, yeah.
How many times did you shoot it?
Oh, we rehearsed all day. I mean, we rehearsed for, the weeks leading up to it a bit. And then we had everybody there, the crew and the dancers and stuff. And then during the day, because the light, we were really wanting to shoot. It's a very specific time, which was
Right.
when the lighting was flat, when the sun goes down, because you can't shoot in the blaring sun; it just doesn't look
Right.
good. So we spent all day just kind of rehearsing, yeah, and we did some takes and rehearsed, and then we had it down, and then when the lighting was just right, we did probably 2-3 takes, and then picked the best one.
I mean, I'm a video
Yeah.
editor by trade, but I
Hmm.
love seeing one take footage. Like, I just think it's
Yeah.
the amount of effort that goes into doing something like that, and the timing
Yeah,
is,
it's a lot of rehearsing.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Rehearsing and timing.
But it seems like there's
Yeah, it
a
was
few
good.
things that you've done on video that's gotten a lot of views and a lot of response. Is that just the following that you have, the music that you create? What do you think that's?
I mean, yeah, I think if you create great art, great work, it's easier to get it circulated.
And so you become an independent artist. How has that changed the way you do things?
Well, it's changed a lot because now I do everything myself. I'm a kind of a one man team, really. I don't for most of it, you know. I don't rely on a label. I don't need anybody to tell me that I can or can't do something. If I feel like doing something, I do it. So, which is that's the biggest benefit because I can. That was the tricky. That was the hard part being on a label, because I wanted to put out a lot of music and I wasn't able to.
Right.
And now being independent, I can put out as much music as I want.
Are you playing most of the instruments on your albums?
Yeah.
Everything?
I mean, it depends on the track because there's been different timelines, but yeah, mostly. Everything recently, yeah, everything since 2021, almost everything. I'll have a few people come in here and play some things every now and then, but mostly doing it myself.
Tell me about the live show. Is there a band or is it mainly you?
Sometimes it's mainly me though, because touring costs have gotten so crazy that and when you're not on a label, that's the one thing about being on a label. There's some benefit depending on how you look at it, because you know, if you're touring, you can get tour support from the label, which they'll give you 15, 20, 25K to go out on a tour. And then you don't need to worry about selling tickets to pay your band.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, you have a budget now. You can go out and tour. I can hire these musicians. I can hire a tour manager. I can rent a van. Being independent, okay, unless I want to go to the bank and get a loan, you know, it's basically what you're doing with the label. I mean,
right.
Sure, they're giving you money, but it's just a loan.
It's your money.
It's your money,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you're just going into debt. That's really all you're doing, you know? So if it sounds great at the time, it's like, oh yeah, you're giving me all this money to go on tour, but you know, it just means you're going into debt.
Do you think you've made, it's one thing to say, I have all the freedom and I can do whatever I want, but it doesn't necessarily mean that translates into success or that you're making the right decisions.
Well, it depends on what your definition of success is.
What is your definition of success?
It's a good question.
Is it to do what you want to do?
I think I'm defining it on the daily, really. Yeah. But for me, the success comes with making the music. Making the music is success. Like just me being able to live and breathe my art every day and make the music I want to make. I mean, that's success already to me, you know.
And I get this feeling you're constantly writing and recording.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you have enough material, put together an album. But you're releasing things.
It comes in phases sometimes. Yeah, where I'll go really hard on writing, recording for a while, and then other things will come up, and I'll get busy with other stuff. But yeah, I'm always trying to keep that. I'm addicted to writing. Like if I don't feel right if I'm not writing and recording.
And how does that happen? Is that something that you wake up, you set outside a certain amount of time during the week or every day, or?
Well, I have my studio here. This is my studio.
Right.
Can't see the whole 360 degrees, but yeah, I mean, this is my office, my studio, so I come to work every day. I don't work another job. This is my job.
Do you have goals?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell me what those might be?
Well, I just put out an album. So, you know, my goals are, I want to be the best artist I can be. You know, I want to be the best singer, the best guitar player, the best songwriter, the best producer I can be. I want to put on the best live show I can possibly put on. Whether that's just, I want to be able to captivate people in every room that I'm in. I just put my faith in God, and where God wants me to go, that's where I go. That's where I'll end up being.
We talked about that French program that you're on that I liked. What's your presence like in Europe?
I just started touring Europe in 2022. And actually, that was the market. It was a market that really opened up for me after the pandemic over here, when everything was closing down here and touring became almost really, really hard over here for me to do. That market opened up, and I met some really great people that helped me build a presence over there.
How did it open up? Was it mainly because of your videos, or how did that happen?
No, I had my agent over there actually was a fan for a long time. She reached out to me and wanted to work together, and she reached out to me via Instagram and via email, and I just started talking with her, and then she lined me up with a label over there that I teamed up with for a little bit, and we just made it happen that way. I just got lucky, and people reached out to me and wanted to work with me, and you know, I've been going over there a lot since 2022. I was there 3 times last year.
Which
touring.
which country are we talking about? What?
All of them. Last year I did the UK. I did London. I did a bunch of places in France. Always Paris. I've done a bunch of Italy, Switzerland, Germany, Poland. I mean, just about everywhere over there almost.
And what's your presence like in the States?
Um, that's it's funny questions. What's my presence like? I mean,
Like, is your
I
focus
have
now in Europe more so than U.S.?
no, not per se. It's just been easier to get over there and make money touring than it has been over here.
Right.
Over here, it's been a little trickier to tour since COVID, really. But you know, I guess I'd say this. You know, what's my presence like? I don't really think of it like that, but you know, I have a really beautiful, dedicated audience and community, and I've been doing. One thing that came out of the pandemic is I've been doing a ton of live streaming online on my YouTube channel and recently TikTok. And that's been an amazing way to connect with my audience, get my music out there. And really, I feel like the music industry nowadays, it's less about, so like when you ask me questions like, oh, what's your presence like? These types of like, you know, thinking about big media and like mainstream artists and stuff like that. That's not for independent artists. It's much more about smaller niche and community building, you know, and building your like a smaller audiences. You know what I mean? Nowadays, it's not. I feel like media is so fragmented now, and attention spans are so fragmented that artists really that are doing it well, independent artists that are doing it well, have their niche community, you know, and their niche audience, and they put out music or they put out their whatever product to that audience, you know what I mean? And then of course you try to build it as much as you can and build a community, but it's more of I don't know, there's more like micro pockets of audiences now than there were before.
Sorry, and I didn't mean to use the word presence, like things just come out of my head.
No, but it's okay. But I think but that's in my experience. I don't know, maybe not everybody experienced this way, but in my experience, going from the 2000 teens, where it was a very different landscape, the music business has changed so much. I mean, I've seen the music business change my whole life. It's never been stagnant. You know, go from literally tape cassettes to CDs to downloads, MP3s to, you know, I feel like I've seen the whole transition. And it's just always changing. And from 2000 in teens, when Spotify was, you know, really taking off, and when, you know, the labels, you could get a song in playlisting and you get billions of streams, and, you know, you sign to a label and you can get into the mainstream media. It's just not that way anymore so much. Like if you sign to a label now, they're like, okay, you got to build your own media channel.
Right.
You got to build your own social media presence. You got to build your own, like labels are signing people that have their own audiences now. They're not signing people anymore and being like, oh, we're going to put you out in front of the mainstream. I mean, maybe there's a small percentage of that, but it's small and not, you know, most artists have their own niche audience and labels are signing that and trying to take that, you know, eat off that lunch. And that's why labels aren't really as effective anymore for artists, because artists are going to be doing the same work, developing their own career anyway, regardless of whether labels involved or not. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Do you have a sense you know, when you're telling me that things are going well in Europe, do you have a sense when you do these live streams where your audience are coming from?
Yeah. I mean, it's all over.
Okay. So
yeah.
If you wanted to grow your presence, maybe not the right word, if you wanted to grow your audience base,
grow your
States,
audience is the correct. Yeah, that's what you want to do. Yeah.
In the States, how do you make that happen if you're not touring? Like, is there a way of making that happen through your live streams?
Yeah, I mean, I think nowadays there's more than one way to skin a cat, you know. So it's it's figuring out what works best for you, you know, for whatever you do. You know, everybody's going to be different. For me, like I said, the live streams and, you know, using my social media and, you know, doing short form content has been the best way so far.
And is there are there things that you want to do using those materials or that vehicle?
I really want to tour more, particularly in the States. I've been wanting to do that for a while. Yeah.
And so how do you go about doing that? How does that happen?
Well, a few things need to kind of line up, you got to be able to sell tickets in any given markets. That's really the main thing. You got to be able to sell tickets. You either have to be able to sell enough tickets where you can afford to go out on tour, or you needed money to pay for the tour deficit if you're not making enough.
So the fact that you've had success in the past, and
so I have to be really specific about which dates I can go and choose to do, if that makes sense.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, for example, like right now, I mean, I could go and just book a nationwide tour. I have an agent. I could tell them, hey, book me nationwide tour. I want to go out. But the cost of that would be astronomical. Mm-hmm. And the returns wouldn't always be there in every market. You know what I mean? So I have to be really, I have to plan everything out really carefully. And because I don't, I got 2 kids, I got family. I'm not going to go out on tour for 2-3 months and lose $10, $15, $20,000. Right. Like I'm not going to do that. I'm independent, So for me to go out, I got to have a certain amount of guarantees. I got to know I can cover all my travel costs. And I know I got to make sure I can come home with an X amount of money. Yeah, my bills paid. I mean, it's basic economics, really. Yeah. So, getting guarantees to go out on tour is harder now than maybe, I don't know, than ever, anytime I can remember.
And is it weird that it's harder in your home country than it is in Europe?
Yeah, that is a little weird because it's easier for me to go and get that money in Europe and get those guarantees, the amount of money I need to be able to go tour. It's easier to do in Europe, has been for the last 5 years, than it has been here.
But in some ways, I almost get the feeling that the Europeans have more respect for artists and the art of music.
They do, but it's also a different economy over there. They have a lot more, well, particularly in France, they have a lot more subsidies from the government.
Right.
So a lot of festivals, they have tons of jazz festivals and all this stuff over there that is heavily subsidized by the government, which over here we don't have.
Okay, so you just put out Wake Up to the Light, which is the album you just put out in May. Mm-hmm. Do you have expectations on what it will do?
Not really.
No? Okay.
Not really, no.
No, once again, the music world has changed.
Yeah.
So It's not like you can sit there and go, gee, it would be nice to sell this many units. Because it's not like that.
I don't think that way at all. I don't think that way. Like I said, I think Prince has a quote that I really like to live by, especially when it comes to stuff. He's like, the music is success upon creation. Any other success you're looking for after that that's not the real success of the music. As an artist, of course you want to make money on your music, and, of course you want to do that. And of course you want to blow up and find a big audience, but I try not to think of it that way. And I try not to think too deeply into, how many people it's reaching. I try to focus more on, is it the quality of stuff I want to put out? Is it saying what I want to say? The people that it's reaching, is it having a deep effect on them? Those are the types of things I judge the success on, probably more so nowadays.
So when you release an album like you just did, I presume that just marks a point in time, and you've probably moved on, mm-hmm. and you have new songs that you're working on that will be mm-hmm. released in the very near future.
Sure, yeah.
Thank you so much for doing this. You're an interesting person. I find it interesting that the different musical genres that you've covered in your life.
Yeah,
and do you feel at this point that what you're doing is the sound that, like, is this the person that you?
Yeah, I think I've landed on my sound here for a while now. Yeah, I mean, not to say that it won't change, but I feel completely authentic in what I'm doing.
Well, I love your acoustic stuff, and I love your voice. It's quite an impressive voice.
Thank you.
So, but thank you for doing this, and I really appreciate the chance to get to know you a little bit.
My pleasure. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Take care.
Take care.